Hello, my name is Hailey Smith, and I'll be the third presenter to talk to you about Sweden. The objectives of my portion of the presentation are to explain low power distance, short-term and long-term orientations, feminine cultures, and then I will summarize all of Hofstede's dimensions for Sweden and explain the best and worst times to travel to Sweden for business, the major holidays celebrated in Sweden, and the gifting customs and superstitions related to business in Sweden. First, from the textbook, we learn that power distance indicates the extent to which a society accepts the unequal distribution of power in institutions and organizations. Sweden scores a 31 on this dimension, meaning it has a low power distance rather than a high power distance. This means that managers are not expected to fly above their employees. Instead, they are expected to coach or empower their employees, ask their employees for help, and be accessible when their employees need them. Sweden is also egalitarian, meaning they believe that everyone is equal and the worth of the person is not tied to the job position. From the textbook, we learn that long-term orientation refers to the fostering of virtues oriented towards future rewards, in particular, perseverance and thrift. Because Sweden scores a 53 on this dimension, it has neither a long-term nor a short-term orientation, but rather lies somewhere in the middle. This means that while Sweden does not overly rely on tradition, it also does not overly encourage change. Sweden also has a feminine culture. From the textbook, we learn that femininity reveals bias towards feminine values of nurturing and the quality of life and relationships. Sweden scores a 5 on this dimension, meaning it is very feminine and not at all masculine. Because it is feminine, Swedes value caring for others and enhancing the quality of life over being the best. They try to reach a consensus when making decisions, and standing out from the crowd is viewed negatively. They also prefer time off rather than monetary rewards. My teammates should have covered the other dimensions of Hofstede, but we decided that having a summary of all of them at the end of the presentation would be good. So, Sweden has a low context language, meaning that the things that they say are straightforward rather than having hidden context. They also have a low uncertainty avoidance, meaning they are okay with ambiguity and they do not have to know every single thing that's going to happen before it happens. They are also individualist, meaning they care more about themselves and their immediate family rather than society as a whole. Sweden has a monochronic time orientation, meaning they view time as a currency that can be spent. They have a low power distance, which I've already explained, meaning they believe everyone to be equal. And they have neither a short-term nor long-term orientation, but rather lie somewhere in the middle. And finally, they are feminine, meaning they value relationships and the quality of life over being the best. That concludes the first 4 objectives of my portion of the presentation, and now I will explain the worst and best times to travel to Sweden for business, the major holidays in Sweden, and the gifting customs and superstitions related to business in Sweden. The worst times to travel to Sweden is typically during the months of January through March, because the country tends to go into a lull after the holiday season. Due to the extreme winter weather conditions and the shorter days in these months, many businesses in Sweden decide to scale back their operations until the beginning of spring. The best times to travel to Sweden are typically between the months of May through September. This is because business operations start to pick back up, the weather starts getting warmer, and the days start getting longer. The major public holidays celebrated in Sweden are usually start the day before rather than the day of. So businesses will close the day before the scheduled holiday at lunchtime and remain closed throughout the holiday. They celebrate most Christian holidays such as Christmas and Easter, but they also celebrate other holidays like Swedish National Day and Midsummer, which are both in June. Midsummer is pictured on the slide. Some gifting customs in Sweden include that gifting is not usually done at the start of the business relationship, but rather at the end. However, bringing gifts to social events is the exception to this rule, as you are expected to bring your host or hostess a gift whenever you attend. Things such as wine, flowers, and chocolates are great for these occasions. It is also a good idea to bring the children of your business partners gifts, such as candies or small toys, because of Sweden's value for their families. Some superstitions related to doing business in Sweden include that you are not supposed to give anything sharp as a gift because it is seen as bad luck, as you are seen as severing the relationship. Also, if you are given a slice of cake in Sweden and it falls over, you will never get married. Therefore, when you are serving cake in Sweden at business events, you should make sure that none of the pieces fall over, or you might accidentally be wishing a single life on any of your business partners. With that, I have completed my portion of the presentation. These are the references I used if you would like to do further research. And I would also like to thank you for taking the time to watch our presentation. But please remember to post your questions in the Swedish discussion board, and we will get back to you shortly. Thank you.